Do you?
I do.
I have a broken one. Okay, all right, we are live. I'm going to go in and share this on my personal page. And like I said, I'm going to tag you, Charlena, so that you can do the same thing if you so desire. Okay. Uh, okay. Okay. All right. And so I will do a recap, Charlena, of last week. If you want to take your phone, which you can do it now, but you don't have to, and you will see the notification in Facebook where I
Mhm.
tagged you,
I
and
got
you can reshare it. Okay, so feel
it.
free to. Actually, you may not need to reshare it if you just accept it. It'll show up on your page. I don't know how that works.
I'll
Um,
I'll figure it out. I'm not
yeah.
techie, but I'll figure
Do we want to tell them that yet? Do you
it
are you
out.
ready to?
No, I'm not. But I
Let
am
me.
more techie than somebody that I know who lives in this house. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not calling any names.
And I will tell y'all, it's not an age thing. It has nothing to do with her age. I told you this before. I have noticed that all of my friends who are in the medical profession are also not at all tech savvy. I don't know what it is in the way you guys are wired or what you learn in school. I only have one friend, actually, my friend Tori, but every other nurse or a doctor, any medical person I know, it's like they pick up these devices and they're like, I don't know. I was smart enough to know all these big words, but I cannot figure out how to log into my Gmail and put something in the cloud. What is that?
Listen, I tell people, look, if you fall out, I can save your life. Outside of that, you need me to do something techie, I'm not your girl. So
Right, right. Well, hello everybody. I'm Coach K. And I am so thankful for my trusty co host, Charlena Anita Mosley, because she keeps me together. She is organizing us to make sure that you guys get really good, rich content every week. And so this is the time to start sharing this out. Share this anywhere that you can think of. I used to do this years ago, and I felt so nervous about asking people to share what I knew was good information. And so I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to beg you, I'm going to plead, I'm going to pray that this information gets shared because I now love, trust, and believe in myself and believe in what we have to offer. I definitely believe in Charlena. And so please share. Even if some of the topics don't relate to you, you never know who might hear and receive this information. People pick videos. Myself, I've been pulled in by the most random videos, and it ended up having a big impact on my life. And so I just want to urge you to share whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. Please click in the link, copy it, text it to some folks. If you know someone, especially who recently went through a divorce, and by recently, I mean within the past 5 years. I don't even mean like a month ago, which is another thing we may talk about. Go ahead and send them the link, and there may be something that resonates with them either in today's episode or last week where I unpacked my divorce. The week before that, Charlena unpacked her divorce. And for me, I can tell mine was 2 years ago because I was heavy all day after that. I had to fight really hard to get myself back into a clear frame of mind. But that's my recap on last week. Did I do all right, Charlena?
I think you did. And tell them where they can find that, those episodes.
Oh yeah, so it's on Coach K's YouTube page. It's also on my Coach Cara Facebook page. You can find me at Coach Cara, and then the YouTube page. I think it's under Coach Cara. Yeah, it's called Coach Cara as well. And I may rename that the Rebirth Experience if they will allow me to do it. But for now, Coach Cara, Khara, on YouTube, as well as Coach Cara on Facebook is where it can be found. So you want to talk about what we're drinking today?
So I decided to switch it up a little bit because we are officially in Christmas season. It is December the 1st. Well, there's two things about December. One is my birth month, but then Christmas also happens. And so, in honor of Christmas, I am drinking, this is eggnog that is topped with
Okay.
Kahlua
Mm.
and topped with heavy cream. So there is nothing about this that is low fat or healthy. So I like the Kahlua, of course, I like the Kahlua with the eggnog, but then I top it with the heavy cream because sometimes it can be a little sweet. So that sort of breaks the sweetness down a little bit and gives it even more richness. So that's what I'm drinking this morning. I would just encourage everyone to try it if you like eggnog. If you like Kahlua, put the two together and voila, enjoy.
Wow. You know what? That sounds so delicious. And what I find to be even more shocking is that you can still do dairy as a Black woman in her 60s. I can't, I can't, I can't, I would be like, I don't know if I could make it through this whole episode if I started off drinking this dairy. So I'm proud of you, because I'm doing somewhat opposite. So first of all, next week, I'm definitely going to have an alcoholic beverage because I don't want you looking like the only lush out here. And that's how it's been every
I know,
episode. And so
exactly. You're
I,
always
I
drinking something healthy. I'm drinking something alcoholic.
but see, full transparency, obviously I'm not living all that healthy, but I start the day off really strong every day. And then it tanks after that. And as you can tell, my backdrop is different. I'm actually in Alabama right now visiting my daughter, and my mother and I have amassed the most fattening, unhealthy, carb heavy food to take back with us. We went to Buc-ee's. Have you ever been there
I
before?
love Buc-ee's. I
She was like,
love
I
Buc-ee's.
have to stop in Buc-ee's because
You have,
everybody talks about it
I
online.
love
I was
Buc-ee's.
in there once. Yeah. I mean,
Buc-ee's is an experience. If you're fortunate
mhm.
enough to have to travel on an interstate that has a Buc-ee's, if you've never been in, you have to stop in. It is an experience.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
just gas and snacks. It's an
Well,
experience.
when my mother was walking out, when she went to the car before me, when I got in, she told me that this other car pulled in, and the man told everybody, "You have 15 minutes in here, tops." We're like,
You
"Good
do have,
luck."
right, you do have to limit your time because it just pulls you in. There's so much to see. So,
Yeah, and this was
listen.
Thanksgiving weekend, so
Oh,
it was packed in there.
yeah.
It was absolutely packed, and she was very overwhelmed. So we're gonna stop again today on the way back. But anyway, she got the brisket sandwich. She had
Yeah,
to try that.
it's so, oh, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't have an appetite for it at that time, so I didn't get it. And I'm trying to go back plant-based, but it's like it be calling me, the lack of preparation, and I'm just not organizing myself around it. But here's what I'm drinking. I went to Starbucks, okay? Where I do my second love is Starbucks. I don't have my home thing, and this is just a chestnut latte. They put the holiday flavors out at
Mhm.
the end of the year. Now, if I had a drop of Kahlua to put in on top of this,
Yes.
okay. And
So,
then I have, whoops, just because you said I'm so healthy, I do have a silk chocolate milk that they had for the free hotel breakfast today. I got that, but this is delicious. But if I had a bit of Kahlua in here, and that is real foam, it's with oat milk, but that's regular milk foam on top.
so listen, I do Kahlua with my hot chocolate. It just, for Christmas, that's sort of a tradition. Hot chocolate, in the morning when you're opening up the gifts, I like the hot chocolate, top it with the Kahlua, and then add some whipped cream. Mm, mm, mm.
So I
And
know we got to
like,
talk about the post divorce. I know, but I have to tell this audience more about you every chance I get. Um, you are the one, and I also love to give Charlena her flowers. You are the one that taught me the significance of making everything an experience, making it a memory, and how much more you enjoy something when it's beautiful.
mhm.
And I didn't. I mean, granted, I think this is also taken between you and Natalie. My level of bougie is like very high.
Yeah.
I still will be far bummier than you guys on an average. Like right now, I got the cap on. This is who I am, and so I'm not going to do a show that I own that I'm not getting paid for, essentially a hobby, and not be myself even here. I'm not going to do that. So I don't have a ton of makeup on today, just my lip gloss, and I had a hoodie on, but I got a hot flash, so I took that off. I'm just here in this t-shirt. This is who I am. But you taught me just the beauty in that and making things special. And so I want to encourage everyone, especially this is going to tie in actually with post divorce. Choose something beautiful. Do beautiful things. I drink sparkling water from a wine glass now because why not? I have the
There's no
glass.
such thing as the good dishes, right? There's
No.
no the good china, the good. I mean, every day is a good day to use the good stuff. And I got that from my mother. My mother used to, she would entertain people for dinner after church. My mother was amazing. She would invite the visitors to come over to our house for dinner, and she would have the beautiful linen tablecloths, and she'd pull out the china and the crystals and fresh flower. Like that's flowers. That's what she would do, and I got that from her.
Mm,
It doesn't take a lot more effort. Like if
mhm.
you use the china, or you use the everyday dishes, you still have to wash the dishes. So why not pull out the china? Why not pull out the crystal? Why not? So so yes. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's enough of that.
No, and I think you can combine that with healing because some people use those things to mask and press down the inner work they need to be doing. And that's not what we're talking about. It should be an enhancement of the beautiful life that you're creating for
Mhm,
yourself.
mhm.
That at least that's how I use it now, especially. I do things intentionally, but I use it also it supports my healing, not because I'm trying to bury anything. So, but if we want to jump in there and just talk about like, because I honestly, even though I was there through your divorce, I don't remember if you did like what did you do to process it? And before you talk, let me recap and say that the beauty in the difference between our stories is that some people might think Charlena wouldn't need any healing because this was something that she wanted, based on how you were feeling about the marriage. People might assume, well, she got what she wanted, so everything is cool. You didn't have as much disentangling to do per se, but that doesn't mean you didn't have your own healing journey you needed to go on.
Yes, that is true. So my process of divorce was a 3-year process. We separated, and it took 3 years to actually get to the finalization of the divorce. And it wasn't that things were so entangled and we had to work out this and work out that, but it's interesting because even though I separated, my ex actually was the one that filed for the divorce. And part of that, I can't even say why that was. So I can speak for me. I had this philosophy when it came to divorce, which is you can have peace or you can have position, but you generally can't have both. And I knew that I didn't want a contentious divorce. And I
Explain
think
that. Slow down. When you say you can have peace or you can have,
position.
what does position
So
mean?
let me explain what. Um, so sometimes in a divorce, the law says you're entitled to this, you're entitled to that. You can get this, you can have that, which might be your lawful position. But is that going to create peace in terms of the relationship that you have with your ex, in terms of what the foundation that you're laying for the future in terms of your relationship with your ex? And so while the court system may say, well, you're entitled to this, that, and the other, some of those things you may not necessarily need. Uh, and so you can say, well, the court says I deserve this. Well, you can get that. And I'm not saying don't, if you actually need, and I'll just say financial, okay?
Right,
So
right,
maybe the court might say, well, because of this, you're entitled to that. And you know what? I really don't need that. I really, really,
right.
right? And it may cause him, a hardship. So you can say, well, my position is, and I'm entitled to this, so I'm going to take it. Well, you can do that, but then what are you creating? You're not creating an environment where you can have a peaceful relationship. And so, like, okay, so in my situation, I left the home, I left the house, I left the possessions in the house. I took one thing, well, two. I took my clothes and I took one piece of artwork, but I left everything else. And I probably could have said, you know what? I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. You need to leave. You need to get out. Um, and most likely I would have been awarded the house. Um, but I felt that because I was the one that chose to end the marriage, that I didn't necessarily feel like I wanted to displace him. Now, this, I don't know, might be a little maybe TMI. Now, he did take on the marital debt that we had. Um, but I believe he eventually was able to sell the house. He did sell the house. And I believe that the proceeds from the house covered whatever the marital debt was. So I think that in the long run, it turned out to be a better position for him. But getting back to, you can have position or you can have peace while you're going through a divorce. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that are involved. There can be bitterness, but I really think that you have to decide, do I want peace or do I want to exert my position? I decided I wanted peace. And so there were things that I left. And when I talk about I left the house and I left the possessions in the house, I always felt like, you know what? I can get all of that back. It's not worth trying to fight over it just because I can. So that's what
Mm,
it means, peace or position.
why didn't I choose peace? No, in some ways I did, and I really I'm not going to go into detail even to that degree because I think mine is still a little fresh, but I do feel like I gave my ex a financial break, you know, and that was that, and I could have gone a more treacherous route. I think he still feels screwed, and so that's why there's no point in me going through the specifics of it. Hey, Karen, just saying hi to a few of our audience members. This is my spiritual sister, son,
Hi,
Cameron.
friend.
And I love all of you guys. Oh, Frida, I'm so glad you're here. Let me say hi to Frida. Put her up here. Yes,
Hey,
yes.
Frida.
And oh, thank you, Karen. I love you more. I mean that. I wish I don't deserve the friends I have. And you know what's so funny? I get very weepy over more than anything else every time I think about my girlfriends. There are just so many people that don't have strong sister friends. And listen, everyone who is capable of being on camera like this is Coach K and friends. And so definitely I want to rotate. It's not always going to be just Charlena and I. And there may be times where Charlena's not available and other people come on. Here's my god sister, Chris. Listen, Chris, through my divorce, which Chris, you should check out last week's episode and share your thoughts with me because I pray that I did a good job of telling my story in a way that was not harmful. But Chris checked on me every week while I was in my process and asked me, are you at peace with your decision? Are you at peace? She doesn't even really remember how often she did that. And um, I don't want to take us too off track, but I have to say this because somebody should be doing this for any person that is going through a major life transition. It's a death. Divorce is a death. And so the checking that she did, not even with me not realizing I had the approval addiction and all this stuff, every time she would ask me that, I would feel so shook, Charlena. And my first thought was, this means I'm not supposed to leave. And I think when you're coming out of a marriage, you have all the religious programming and stuff we talked about. Of course, that's going to be your first thought every time, because it's been beat into your head that you can't and should never leave, pretty much no matter what. And so, because she kept asking me and I made a decision to sit in it instead of going down and having a conversation about let's try again, when I knew that door was really closed, it forced me to confront and make peace with my decision. And I'm sitting here 2 years later, absolutely no regret. There has not been one day where I said, man, maybe nothing, because the relationship had exhausted itself and run its course. But when you're in a codependent situation, it never feels done, right? Because you're codependent on each other. And so I just wanted to shout her out and thank her for that, because when people do something for us, it's just like with a business. If the service is bad, we want to jump on the review right away, and say it was bad. But when the service is great, we don't always tell people. And then she needs to know for herself, what type of information do I share with people that's helpful, so she can, replicate it in another friendship. And so we're going to have a whole episode where we talk about friendship and female friendship. And there's going to be other women hopping on and off sharing, because we need each other, but it needs to be right. Okay. We've all had it when it's not right. And so that's going to be a fantastic conversation as well. But so you chose let's get back to healing after divorce. And this is so critical. And if
So
I had healed properly
there's
after
a
my
lot of
first marriage, I wouldn't have repeated the same. Yeah.
there's a lot of I think the healing journey extends more than what we think. So it's also while you're going through the process of divorce, not just on the other side, because as you're going through it, you're I mean, there's so many things that you have to unpack while you're going through the divorce, because there's the particulars of the divorce, there's your own mental your own mental health, there's the society and the familial pressures that come on. So you have so many things that you're trying to navigate while you're going through your divorce. And I think that's why it's so important in the process that you're very clear as to why you're making your decision. Like that I think is first and foremost. You have to be very, very clear and grounded in why you're making the decision, because a lot of things will be coming at you. So again, whether it's the pressure from your family, or it could be in the church, or even from your spouse wanting you to reconsider your position. There's a lot that goes on during that process, and you have to be very clear about your reason, because that is the thing that's going to hold you steadfast when you're getting all of this noise from other people. So
Hmm. I'm glad you said that. Now, Charlena, do you remember what you told me? So then you can share that here, because we should have talked about that last week as well. When I told you that this is what I was deciding to do. Do you remember what you told me to do?
no,
Okay.
you know, I'm 60.
Okay, I have to say this because this is so important for anyone, and honestly, you could really use it for any decision. Because again, we want to repeat this for those who weren't here before. Charlene and I are very pro marriage. We don't desire anyone. We're not like, oh, not misery loves company, but even like attracts like, none of that kind of stuff. If you're married and your spouse is diligently trying and you love them, etc., you need to stay there and work it out. Let that be very clear. My life would be a lot easier had I not divorced. But Charlena said to me, or not but, however, I try not to use the word but, honestly, in general. However, she said, write down your reasons. And I think you could do that even if you're in the valley, regardless of, because you may write your list down of benefits and things that aren't going well, and be like, wait a minute, I'm ungrateful over here. This is I need to work on this, right? But she said, if you're leaving, Write it down, because when you have moments of weakness, you need
Yeah.
to go back and look at that. That's what you told me. And I said to you, because I tend to be argumentative, y'all. I'm not an easy friend. I was like, oh, I'm not going to change my mind. I am set. I am done with this. But I did I did it anyway after I stopped being argumentative, and it did help me to go back and say, I'm not being loved right. I'm not, these things are not, and this is the way it's always been. And that's when I began to see kind of more of the pattern, that the bad far outweighed the good, that it was really just fear of the unknown, and fear of punishment, religious punishment, that was keeping me kind of in bondage there. And then let me put Chris's
So, and
comment up here as well.
yeah, so you're right. Sometimes it's as simple and as practical as making a list. And we talk about that in decisions of significance, right? But sometimes we don't think about that when it comes to decisions of the heart, when it has to come to our marriage. So that was a very practical piece of information that I gave to you. And
Yeah.
and sometimes and I mean, this is totally off subject, but um, in my marriage now, one of the things that I started doing when I started dating my current husband is, and it's in my phone, it's under notes, reasons why I love him. And I write down all these little things that he does that cause me to love him, that I love about him. And when he be getting on my damn nerves, I go back to that list and I review it.
Let me pull up my list.
Yeah.
I might need to do that today, because I do have to talk to you after this show is over. Yes.
And
Gotta look
it
at
helps
the list.
to ground me. And so, yes, if you've made the decision, you've waited, put those things down. So because what it's going to do is ground you in the decision that you've made, the decision that you've determined is the best decision for your life.
Right. And you know what? Let me highlight what Chris said, CM Scotty. I had to slow read this several times just now, because and I we're going to get to healing, but we're
Mhm.
also moving organically with this show and what we talk about. Um the peace comes from within. It's not to question the decision, it's being at peace with the decision that has
Mhm.
already been made. And so for me, because I had all of the approval addiction, but also because I did not know how to trust myself, which I just learned last year, and is a topic that definitely needs to be discussed. Learning how to trust yourself does not go against the scripture that says, lean not on your own understanding. I'm going to put that on the parking lot for later. But the point she's saying is, you've already made the decision. Now let's work towards being at peace. Because
Mhm.
sometimes you can make the right decision and it hurts like hell and it feels crazy and all these things are going on, even though you know it's the right thing to do. And this applies to many things, not just the end of a relationship, but transitioning to a new job, dealing with decisions around your adult children. Like, how many times do we have to make tough decisions to support or support our children differently? And we know we made the right decision, but we don't have peace. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that we're questioning the decision. It's being at peace with the decision that's already made. So I thank you for that, sis. And Charlene,
Mhm.
we're going to add adult children to the podcast, to the list of topics that's not on there right now. And it's for women of our age, man. That's something we definitely have to talk about
Mhm.
for sure. Thank you for that comment, Chris.
So I
Yeah.
want to circle back to so let's say that we are at peace with the decision. We've made the decision, and now we have to move forward. Uh, and I want to just get back to the whole, peace versus position. Um, and I did say there's a lot of work that we have to do, self work that we do in the process. There are various reasons why people get divorced, right? Sometimes you may be the person that initiates the process. Sometimes you experience things, or you were a victim of behaviors that led to that led you to your decision. maybe your spouse did you wrong. Maybe you have a lot of bitterness and anger. And while rightfully so, there's you have to be able to even process that so that your decisions aren't based upon your bitterness, your anger, your pain, your disgust for that person, if that is your situation. Because anybody can tell you decisions that you make that are truly based out of a negative emotion, it's like the seed. It's the seed that planted that decision, that negative emotion. Nothing good is going to come out of that. You can't start with a bad seed of hatred and bitterness and anger and make a decision based upon that, and then something good is going to come out of that. So even if you are, let's say, the victim, let's say your spouse did you wrong and that is what's causing your divorce, you've got to work through that so that you can make good decisions for what's going to be your future. Because what you're talking about during the process of your divorce is you're laying the foundation of what your future is going to be. It's so the way you behave in your divorce, definitely, if you have children, definitely is going to impact your children. The decisions that you make about, I'm gonna take him or take her for everything they have, that definitely is going to impact your future. So while you're in the process of it, you've got to be able to unpack your emotions, even if your emotions are justified. You've got to, again, peace or position. Your position is, yes, you are justified in feeling what you're feeling, perhaps acting a certain way, but will that give you peace today and peace in the future for the life that you want to live?
Hmm. And I think that that's such great information. I think that I rushed my process in the very beginning, and I don't think that I had the capacity to think about all these, factors that you just mentioned. I just didn't have it, and also because of the level of codependency that was going on, I really wasn't even thinking as much about my kids or anybody else. I was thinking, oh, he needs me, and I need to do this, and I was like looking up places for him to stay. He hadn't asked for any of that, So it was just it's just it was not a it was not a healthy process at all. And you know what? If I had to do it again, I would tell people. Well, hopefully, I never do it again, right? But if I were moving in reverse, I would tell people, get a therapist and that guides you through all of that. Like if I had had a therapist from I had the therapist who helped me see the need for the split, but she was more of an episodic type therapist. It wasn't we weren't in ongoing sessions. But if you had a therapist who could counsel you and work with you step by step through that process, it would be absolutely magnificent, because especially as if you are a Christian, there is no real support. No,
Mhm,
no one supports your
mhm,
decision to
mhm,
leave. They will give you a million resources to stay. And I feel,
mhm.
a slight, let me go down
Yeah,
this little
no,
alley just a little bit.
go ahead.
People should
There
have a
should be a place.
divorce is an option. It's like we said,
Mhm,
divorce is an option. We shouldn't be scared to say that. It doesn't mean more people are going to go get divorced.
mhm,
People who love their spouses and people who are treating each other well, they're not worried that their spouse is going to listen to this show and say, I'm done with you. It doesn't work like that. And so the church should not be afraid to embrace the topic and think it's going to drive the divorce rate up, because what's happening is people are still doing these things, but they're hiding in shame, and they're cheating, and they're falling into porn addiction and all sorts of things, not because they need to necessarily get divorced, but because they don't feel comfortable talking about what's really going on. So that's why we have to go outside to get the support and
and
resources.
so, and I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We are here to be a support for people who have decided to take this journey, because I mean we come from the same church background. We know that there is not a place. I don't think there was anyone. I can't think of anyone who was supportive of me or that even asked me, why are you choosing, I mean, truly wanting to know from me, why
Yeah.
to do this, because you talked about In the first episode where I shared my story, you talked about how on the outside it looked like I had the perfect husband, right? That was separating
The
the
yellow
yellow,
sweet tarts.
the
I
yellow.
don't know if Karen is still listening, but she was at that brunch and we were sitting there like, and you don't love him? He pulled the yellow sweet tarts because you don't like the color yellow. He opened the box and separated
So,
all of them.
so it technically was, I loved the yellow conversation hearts. They were my favorite. So he
Okay.
pulled all the yellow ones out so that I could have those. So anyway, because
And
your
we're not
husband,
laughing at him. This is
no,
old. This is
it's no, I
very
mean,
old information. And
it's a
you have to go
beautiful,
back to the
beautiful
first
thing.
episode. She's not getting ready to unpack that again. But if you want to understand it, nobody was the bad guy here. So that's in the first episode.
It was very sweet. But saying all of that to say, there was no one that supported me. Everyone, especially in the church, was like, "How can you do this? He's so wonderful. He loves you." And I didn't have that.
They were hands
Oh,
off, Charlena. I think with you, people were very hands off. Like, we don't understand this. It's wrong. And even that hasn't even been that. It's been a long time. But
yeah.
even we've moved forward. Even then, I think
But
we've
you know
gotten a
what?
little bit
But
better.
you know what else I think too? I think that when you talked about, I think you just said about your difficulty in making certain decisions or whatever. I trusted myself. And that was a decision that I made. And I pretty much was like, you know what? I'll deal with all the fallout. I was okay with being looked at as the bad guy. I was okay with that. And I think there was a part of some people who probably didn't want to approach me because they probably felt like I might have not necessarily received the quote counsel that they wanted to give me. Um, and then others, of course, just felt like I was, you know, making a bad decision. But with that being said, we are that place. We are those people that we're the people that are providing that support for someone who needs some support and needs to be affirmed in once they have made that decision. Again, we're not telling anyone to make that decision. Everyone has to make it for themselves, but there needs to be a place. And it would be great. I wish that there were therapists who helped people through a divorce journey. That is needed. People still need support. They need encouragement. They need direction. They need um, they need love. They need affirmation that you have made this decision. You've determined it's the right decision for you, and this is how you can navigate through your journey.
And you know what? Let's add on there that they what they don't need is a lecture. What they don't need is to be talked to death. And this is any kind of grief journey. Leave people alone. Learn the term hold space. Like when for example, when I spoke to you or when I spoke to Christine, and really all my friends did a fantastic job at this. She would, I don't remember why, we would be on the phone for like an hour every time. She basically just listened. She just
Mhm,
let me talk. She didn't
mhm,
judge anything I said. She gave me absolutely no advice at all. you know it was just being there. And I think that that is something that most of us, especially me, just don't do well. We especially as women, I think we want to come in and fix it. Whatever it is that someone comes to, whether it's our children or whatever, and we have to learn to do the same thing with our children as well. Sometimes you just need to be there. How are you doing? Okay, and let the person unload it. Don't offer any advice. And
mhm,
and you may, I'm going to share this little tidbit because it might help somebody. If you have such a hard time holding that back, get a little notepad out and take little notes so you can direct that energy somewhere so that you don't accidentally say it to someone who's
mhm,
not ready to receive it. And then people get mad nobody takes their advice. Even if somebody asks you for advice, they still need to make their own decision in here. So we shouldn't be offended, by the way, when we give advice and people don't take it. I'm going to stop giving people my opinion because nobody's listening. They don't have to listen to you, boo. It has to come from within them. Even the Bible says, let each person be fully persuaded in their own minds, you know? And so, but that was very helpful for me, just someone who just listened. And my thoughts were like spaghetti, they were all over the place. So just being able to process that for me was really, really helpful. And it's taught me how to be a better friend. But the most important thing is check on somebody. If I had a girlfriend who divorced, who and hopefully she'll join us one day. She filed like the year before me or something like that, and I I was like, oh, I was happy for her because I felt like it wasn't great. And but I just was surprised when somebody else told me, hey, you should check on her. I don't think she's doing that well. She's grieving. And I thought she should be happy it's over. Honey, a year later, I knew exactly what that was feeling was like, where yes, I wanted this to end. I was not happy there, but that doesn't mean that I'm joyful and thrilled that my family is completely in tatters. That doesn't mean that I'm enjoying the process, even though it's something I wanted. But I want us to talk about the healing, and because I'm going to share I want to share the specific things that I did to get through that first year, especially. Do you remember some of the things you did, like the year after your divorce? Was there anything intentional that you did?
So you have to remember, so I was separated for 3 years before
Oh,
the
that's right.
before the actual divorce. Um, so I had shared in my episode of sharing that, I questioned myself in terms of when I asked myself the question, or I told myself that you may never find a partner again. If you make this decision, you may be alone for the rest of your life. So are you okay with that? And what is your life going to be? And so I was very intentional about, it was really just about re-establishing myself, rebuilding myself, and determining what was the life that I wanted to have after this divorce. It was, oh, this is huge. When you're in a marriage, I think you you are so defined by your roles. You're a mother. If you have children, you're a mother. You're a wife, you have a profession, you're whatever your profession is, you're all of these things, and all of these things pull from you. And you can very easily become disconnected with who you are as a person, who you are as a woman. And so for me, it was rediscovering, who am I? What do I enjoy doing? What type of life do I want to have? How do I what do I want to model to my daughter? What do I want to show her about what being a woman is and what a woman can do, and who she is and how she lives her life? And how I have the ability to show her what a strong, capable woman is and what she's able to do. And so that was very, very important to me. Um, about shaping my life, of what it was going to be in the future, and what I wanted to model to my daughter. And when I say shaping my life again, and then it was sort of getting out of and accepting singleness, which meant that I don't have someone I can depend on. It's all on me. If the bills get paid, it's all on me. And so realizing that I can't just spend like I used to be spending. That was a huge
Huge. Yeah. I was in the hole
that
last
was
year.
huge to realize I can't spend like I used to spend. I can't just turn the thermostat up, walking around in the wintertime with little shorts on because I can have the heat up at 80 degrees. I can't, there are things that I can't do. And so it was really just the transition from married to single. And that is huge. It's
It's
huge.
huge. That is huge. And I feel like because I did it twice and then to the same person, that gives me a lot of, comparison. Like the first time I was married to him, it was only 4 years long. But I did so I didn't have as much recovery per se because I hadn't been in it as long, but I did no therapeutic work after the first marriage at all. And I think that because of at the end of the second marriage, I was like, okay, I have a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I turned 50. I have more years behind me than in front of me. This time is super precious. And so maybe I went a little overboard, but I was determined. I tend to do this when I'm gung ho. I'm all in. Everything I think about is I become obsessed with a thing, and I became essentially obsessed with healing. And I had several friends who gave me very helpful tools. I had a book called Spiritual Divorce and I'm famous for this with self help. I read like 25 pages. My father used to say, "You get this from me." I read 25 pages and I'm like, I got it. I know the whole concept and don't necessarily finish, but it does talk about how a divorce can be transformational for your life. And it also, one of the chapters in there, the assignments is to write your divorce story, like write it however you feel it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, and then go back and look at the facts. Separate the facts of what happened from the narrative that you're telling in your mind. He did this to me and this happened and I was thinking this, and just stick to the actual facts to help you kind of reframe what happened. So the book kind of unpacks that. And then I was still in therapy. I think I switched to a new therapist at that time. I also and I feel like everything I did, I wouldn't change anything. Everything helped in its own way. But I went through divorce care through a local Christian church, 13 weeks.
I
Highly
remember you
10
did.
out of 10. Oh my gosh. The thing about the divorce care is that, first of all, our denomination doesn't really offer this, although I think there's a church in Atlanta now that's doing something around it. Um, but it's literally like the safest space in the world to talk about your divorce because you're in a community of other people who are also have a Christian faith background or still practicing, and they're going through divorce. Even if
Mm-hmm.
you're not Christian, it's not overly spiritualized content. So you could drop into divorce care and you don't have a Christian background at all. They're not there's no shame there. They're not beating you over the head with things, and it's organized material that we reviewed every single week with a little video we'd watch and discuss our reaction. I'll never forget the first week, Charlena, it was led by a divorced couple. Let me come back to them. The first week, the video pops up and there's a house burning down, and it's called Devastation. That was exactly how I felt because, unlike you, I was not separated for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
We had the conversation in November, and it was finalized on Valentine's Day of the following year. So you want to talk about a spin, where you feel like you're on the spin cycle in the washing machine. And while I don't regret that for various reasons that I don't want to share publicly, I do realize that it did create some of the storm with my
Mm-hmm.
children and with my
Mm-hmm.
ex. Nobody had time to
Mm-hmm.
adjust. But
Mm-hmm.
I had done a 9-month separation the first time we split. But that was because I was like, let me give him some time. This could come back together. But this time I knew it was done. And I just felt like there's no need to delay this. I'm ripping the band-aid off completely. And I did, and I don't regret it because I wouldn't want my kids to have had hope that dad's going to come back, and I didn't want any more back. It's been 25 years of that back and forth, back and forth. I didn't 25 years. Okay, I didn't want any more of that. So I did the divorce care. The couple that led the class had been divorced before when they met each other, and one of them, her husband, had done something terrible. Her ex-husband that he had to go to jail over, brought a lot of shame upon her. The other guy had been married twice before, her husband now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think he'd married the same woman twice as well. And they found each other and they'd been married well over a decade. And now they're leading divorce care. So automatically there's no shame when you hear their stories. You're like, they didn't have leaders who had done it all perfectly and were 40 years of marriage together. And they're trying to help us through our divorce. It wasn't like that. So it's very encouraging. There, it wasn't, sometimes you might worry about doing something like that, that it would be draining. Everybody's sitting around crying the entire time, but it wasn't. Everybody showed a lot of compassion towards each other. We had a mixture of men and women. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. And it wasn't a lot of like homework, if you might be thinking that we have to go home and do all these things. We just had a different topic every week. Um, Equally, well, really even more transformational than that. Some of the people who were listening here are my spiritual sisters, because in May of 2023, I saw Iyanla Van Zant on Facebook talking about something called rites of passage, where women get in touch with their womanhood and you heal your mother wounds and things like that. And I,
Father.
I prayed about it and I was like, should I do this? And God gave me the money and I knew it was different. I was a little nervous about doing something outside of my denomination. And it changed my life more than anything. And like I would have to do a whole separate show on that. But um it didn't have anything to do with the divorce, because it was about me. And it's like you said, we wear these hats. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a this. And the second marriage being so much longer, having yet another child, it was so much more entrenched in me, that identity. And I really had lost myself. It took me a long time to even get into the second marriage, because I didn't really want to do it. And at some point, at around the 8-year mark, I turned the corner and said, I'm a wife again. I literally, like, it was like the 8-year mark. I'm a wife again. This actually is my husband. This is my life. These are my kids. So then I had to kind of come out of that. And Rites of Passage focused on Cara. What happened to Cara as a kid? What different parts of me were showing up not good? We talked about weeks like the hustler in me that doesn't know how to get her needs met. So I have to manipulate people because in order for me to receive what I need, or the bitch persona that has to be mean, it's a guard. So
I think that that brings up a good point, that in any divorce, it is never one person who is at fault. Even if your spouse cheated on you, even if whatever, it always takes two people to bring a marriage to divorce. Now, there may be more fault with one or the other, but both parties have a part to play in it. And I think as an individual, our responsibility is to find out, what did we do? What did we bring to this marriage that led it to divorce? Because none of us is completely clean. All of us bring some shit into the marriage that impacts the uh, potential success of that marriage. And so I think also in our journey, there's a part of that work that needs to be done. And that's hard. That's hard to say, even if your spouse cheated on you, or he beat you, or whatever, or she cheated, or whatever, right? There's this hard to take the focus off of that person and look at yourself and say, what did I bring into this marriage that led to its demise? And I think that during your journey, whether it's while you're getting in the process of the divorce, or whether it's after the divorce, there's a point where you need to ask yourself that question. You have to, because that's a wound. It's a wound. It's baggage. And if you ever desire to be in a healthy relationship in the future, you're going to have to confront that, whatever it is, because you're going to bring that shit into the new relationship, or it's going to hinder you from having the relationship that you truly
that
deserve
you
to
truly
have.
deserved.
So a lot of divorce work is self work. It really is. It's really, really a lot of self work. It's your mommy daddy issues. It's your childhood, your child, what is it, childbirth order. It's a whole bunch of stuff that comes into that marriage that led to its demise.
And the thing is, I took a note here. There's no time limit on your grieving process. I have a beloved friend who said, okay, good, move. Now you can move forward. And I know what she meant, but I felt like that's what I'm doing. I've always been moving forward. And I think that when you're supporting someone who's grieving the loss of a marriage or family or loved one or whatever, stop expecting them to just get over it. You can't control what anyone's time frame is for any of that.
Mhm.
As long as they're moving forward, moving in terms of active, not move
Right.
forward. No, actively moving forward. That's the only marker you
Mhm.
should look for. Be
Mhm.
concerned if months are going by and they still
That-
seem stuck. That's what you should be concerned
That's
about.
any grief whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah, the stuckness is where the
Mhm.
challenge is. As long as they're moving forward and kind of learning and unlearning, then it's okay. And then the second thing is, and this is another episode for sure, but I need to do more studying myself. When you said that you have to look at your part, honestly, Charlena, until just a week ago, I still would have been saying it was mostly him. If he had just acted right and done these things, we would still be I would have stayed. That's the way I put it because I still didn't was in the wrong relationship, but I would have been willing to deal with it. But what I have learned and what I've been working on recently is this process called radical forgiveness and self forgiveness.
Mhm.
Basically, you take full responsibility for
Mhm.
everything
Mhm.
because it was my body and I chose to
There you go.
continue to be there in spite of what I was experiencing for all of that time.
Mhm.
And here's the bigger part for me. I had the emotional maturity that he made hopefully is still growing into. I knew this was not
Mhm.
a good match, but I
Mhm.
stayed anyway and I did it again anyway and all those things. So I have to take more ownership for
That's
even being
that's
back
the
in the
point. Right.
relationship. And I'm just like, poof,
That's
there it
the point right there.
is.
That right. That's the point right there. And that's hard. That is so hard. It's so hard to look at yourself. Like for me, it's like I look at why did I choose this person? That's on me.
Mhm.
I chose him. I chose to be in this marriage. I chose to marry a man that I knew I didn't love.
Because you didn't trust yourself though fully
Where
at
did
that
that
time.
come
You
from?
weren't well. I think
I know I
you
didn't
weren't
know
grounded.
myself.
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't know
Know
myself.
yourself, which is
I
another thing. Women shouldn't get married and you don't know yourself.
yeah,
Younger women, if you're listening, don't do it.
I didn't know what was truly important to me. And again, as I had shared, I had my dad in my ear and
Right.
he was telling me and directing me based on his own stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so, but what he said made sense. It would make
Mhm.
sense for most people, but it wasn't what was right for me. And
Mhm.
so I made the conscious decision to marry this man. That's on me. So
Mhm.
right there, I made a decision that that was laying the foundation for this marriage to not be successful.
Mm.
And so until I was able to unpack all of that and take responsibility for it and acknowledge it, take responsibility for it, be aware of it, be conscious of it, I would not be able to move forward. And I get, I stand on that for anybody, male or female. You've got to be willing to look at what was my part. If you're not able and willing to do that, you will not be able to move forward. You will not be able to receive the fullness of the blessings of life in terms of relationship because you'll still have that shit that's
Yeah.
attached to you and influencing your decisions in the future.
I told y'all she had a potty mouth sometimes. We're not apologizing though. We're adults. But listen, you know what? What would be a full circle moment that's never going to happen? I'm going to lighten the mood here. I think this is funny. I don't think they would find it funny, but the full circle moment would be if both you and your ex take full responsibility for your side of why it didn't work and you're arguing over it. It's all my fault. No, it was all my fault. No, it was all my fault. No, it was all my fault.
That is
Right.
not going to happen.
Never going to happen. It's absolutely never going to happen. But the point is, it all is because on the flip side of what you said, he probably knew in his heart you didn't fully love him. You can't tell me he didn't feel some of that energy, but he told himself, she's my dream girl, I'm going to make it happen, whatever, right? And then on the flip side of mine, it could have been that, well, I mean, he has a ton of reasons why certain things were my way, but I think he knew that it wasn't a match. I feel like a man knows if this woman is supposed to be his or not. Because even when during the marriage, there were times where he would say, I just feel like you're supposed to be with this type of guy. And like what kind of husband says that? Like, I really see you with this type. So you knew I wasn't your person, but you were trying to hold on to me anyway for whatever reasons of your own. So I do think that both people can take accountability, but the point is, I can only fix my shit. I can't fix what happened with him, and I tried that for so many years to fix this other person. It doesn't work. And so even if you're tempted to keep blaming them and going back to them, you can do that if you want to, baby. Nobody's going to stop you, but you will make no progress and you will be stuck. And as hard as it is, if you do it, if you find some simple exercises, which maybe we'll talk about in another episode or not, to kind of push yourself into the pain of looking yourself in the mirror and addressing it, you may cry for a moment. You might be down a whole day, but you will wake up feeling renewed. Take a shower and you will just wash it all that crap will be washed away. And now you can start again.
It frees you.
Yeah.
It liberates you because you're holding on to that. And when you're able to acknowledge it and to own it as this was my shit, when you're able to do that, you release its power over you. It no longer has power over you.
You know the example I love? It's the comedians or the people who, I'm going to make fun of me before you do. Therefore, your words don't hurt me because I already sat in my prayer closet and worked all that out. I already knew that's who I was. So I'm not offended by anything you're saying. But you and another girlfriend of mine, you made peace with your mistakes and things that you did in the marriage and maybe you shouldn't have done or whatever. So you can't attack me on that anymore because I've already addressed it within myself and I've forgiven myself and I've moved on. God has forgiven me. The people who were always down for me are still here. So I'm good. But there are times where things can look unsurvivable, but we are here to share with you that there's not a lot that is unsurvivable. If it's not unto death, or as my girl Karen says, she was on here earlier, she used to say all the time, oh my gosh, bring it back to me, Holy Spirit. Something about having hope. As long as there's breath in your body, you have hope. You can always start again. And it may be brick by brick. It may be hard. You may be in the pit. You may be like me, where your children are kind of all over the place. And we're going to close out soon. But I do want to add that little bit in, and I don't know that I want to make it into a whole episode, especially because it is about my children. But I was not prepared for that. It takes a lot to take your children through a healing journey. And I have 3 children, and each one of them were on very different paths and took it very differently. And I had to not only heal myself, but stretch myself to be available to them. And I was in immense pain most of last year, just from the weight of trying to fix everything. That's what I've been doing for 20 years anyway. And even now, my daughters are not on speaking terms and we could not spend a holiday together. And so, for those who do pray, I'm asking, I would appreciate prayer for their reconciliation. But the joy is that I'm right now in Alabama with one of my daughters, and I brought my mother down here who hadn't seen her since right after the divorce. She hadn't seen her own granddaughter, and my daughter had a misunderstanding about my mother's role in things. And so even this is a part of the healing process, but it's not quick. It's not, you can't just do it's not a microwave thing, baby. Healing happens in the crock pot, Yes,
I love that. Yes. Definitely in the crock pot. Definitely like 15 years simmering real slow and real long.
Tell everybody how long it took from the time of your divorce for you guys to get amicable. To a place let me describe that, Charlena. I want you to tell me when you reached a place where you could be around each other and there's mutually no tension. Because I think you were at peace sooner than he was. So you probably didn't feel any tension much earlier than him. But when did it get to a place where you could have
Well,
conversations without triggering
feel,
each other?
I could feel that he felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been 15. I'd probably say probably
14 and a half years.
no.
I'm teasing.
Probably when he got married.
Okay, when he remarried.
Yeah, I think when he remarried is, and
I think it was longer than that.
so, you know what? I'm gonna say no, about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, so
Yeah, I think we need to leave that alone.
This is great. No, it's about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So we were having a birthday celebration for my stepmom. So, and we can talk about that, about exes and
the boundaries. That's where we should go next
that.
week. Yeah.
So we were having a birthday celebration for my stepmother, who was turning 80. And you have to understand, my husband and I had been married and part of each other's lives for over 20 years. So there, he's enmeshed with my family. So we had this celebration. I'm dating my husband at the time. And so, I do decorations and things for events. And so it was crazy because we were all at the venue. It was my ex-husband, me, and my boyfriend. We were decorating this venue together. It was the three of us together, and just kind of doing what I do, and they were there to assist and make it a success. And actually, there's a picture of my dad, my ex-husband, and my boyfriend that the photographer took of the three of them together posing. So, it's possible.
Let me tell you something, y'all. If you see my ex and my partner and me anywhere together, know that you're calling an election. Better be sure. You better get ready to get right with the Lord, okay? Because I have no desire to be in each other's presence at all. So I guess it would have to be like a graduation of Zion's or something, but
that's what time.
I don't think it would go well. I not anytime soon.
People just have to be in a different space. It takes time.
Yeah.
And as I said, peace over position. If you make certain decisions at the beginning, you set yourself up for having peace in the future.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know. I didn't even touch on that because I don't know how I could have done that. And I'm not even ready to process it. I'd be on here rambling for 5-10 minutes to try to figure out how could I have done it in a more peaceful way and not been taken advantage of even more than I already felt in the marriage. It's not like we were going to be able to have a mature conversation about anything. So I don't know. But I do think it's funny how I think that God is involved in the timing of this, because there have been a few close calls when my partner was coming over, but then the ex was going to drop Zion off or what, and I would be staring out the window like, oh, what's the timing on this? And for whatever reason, they always miss each other. Even right now, he's at my house cleaning up a tree that fell in the yard, and I was looking on the camera, and then I checked my son's location because he's coming back from out of town with his dad today, and I'm like, oh, good, he's still in North Carolina. There's no way that they're gonna, but I'm not trying to control it. I'm just observing. And control is another thing that needs to be covered in a future topic, because I work super hard not to control anymore after being very controlling most of my life. And I'm telling you, you don't have the control problem as much. So you can be here and you can interview me and another control freak about how we recovered and got through it, because no. Charlena will control if it's an event, okay? And that pot needs to be at an exact 92-degree angle, not 93, not 95, not 90, 92 degrees. Other than that, she's a total treasure and a joy. But when it comes to an event of any kind, it's like she morphs into it's like she puts a costume on and turns into this whole other person. She can't have conversation. Don't interrupt her. There's no chit chat. There's no pleasantries. Once everything is perfect at a 92-degree angle, then she will sit down and be social. But we're going to close out. I think next week, tell me your thoughts. I think that next week, one of the biggest things when you're recovering from a marriage, and trust me, guys, we have a lot more topics planned. We're not always going to be talking about divorce and marriage and that sort of thing, but we started here to tell our stories. And I think that it might be great to talk about maybe boundaries and then dating post-divorce, because the boundaries thing is massively challenging. And we may have a guest on. I do think boundaries were more natural for you than for me, but I could be wrong. So I think we should talk about that and maybe talk about just, I guess, like recreating your life, or something along those lines. What do you think?
I think that would be good. You did, and I want you to make a note of this. You did talk about the impact of your children, and so I do want to talk about the cost of divorce. So for example, the friends that I lost, you talk about your children. I talked about finances, right? Assets. I mean, there's so many costs to divorce, and that's important for people to think about as well. Just, it's not to deter someone from making that decision or deter them or to change their mind if they've made the decision, but you've got to be clear, if you have knowledge ahead of time that this is what I could possibly experience afterwards. If you can be prepared. So you're not, you're just not you just have no idea. So just, if we could talk about those things, I think that'll be helpful. Of course we have we can share, the positive sides to this decision that we've made, and, our growth and healing and all of that, and, the beautiful life that I have now. But it didn't come free. There is a cost.
That's so true.
Divorce, and you need to be aware of what that could possibly be and what it could look like in your life.
Yeah. And then the friendships too, because when you're married for a long time and you have all those friendships, I have a friend in particular who, she was grieving while I was grieving, because she was very close to both of us, and she believed in him, and we were couple friends, and we did a lot of things together, especially early in our relationship. And so I kept wondering, like, she's bringing this up a lot. I'm trying to move forward. And then I feel like the Holy Spirit was like, girl, she's hurting too. She loved this dude. And now she can't be in the same relationship with him, which I didn't push. But anyway, it has a ripple effect on an entire community. And that doesn't mean that it's not worth it per se. I don't really like to use that term, but you do need to be aware and count all of those costs. And you deserve to take your time too. Right. Yeah.
Be prepared for it. It may be experience, it may not, but we don't want you to be caught off guard.
Yep.
Just like, oh my God, I never could have, just know.
Exactly. We're closing, but you know what? We did not talk about what we're bringing to the space. We're going to do that next week, right? Where we set an intention at the beginning. We're still going to close with our breath work. And so if you're not driving, I'm going to ask you to start thinking about that and getting comfortable. Today, we're going to take 3 breaths. Whether this resonated with you or not, I still would love for you to participate in that part. Again, I want to encourage you all to share this episode. And let me turn it over to Charlena. What do you want to say?
Well, also, if you have questions or comments about what has been said after you've had time to think about what you shared, please put that in the comment section so that we definitely address that. We want this to be an open forum. This isn't a place where we're telling people what to do. Of course, we're sharing our experiences, and we want that dialogue. As Cara said, there aren't places for people who are either divorced or going through divorce or contemplating divorce. There are very few places. Like, we don't really know where they are, if they exist, but
for believers especially,
yes,
for people with a religious background, There are
Exactly.
not enough resources. There is not enough acceptance. There is a ton of guilt and shame and
Mhm.
hiding that occurs. And that's a big motivator for us.
Right. And we want this to be that forum. So please
Yeah.
feel free to make comments or questions.
Yeah,
We,
and
we were,
comment and let us know. What's
Mhm.
one thing that you know today that you didn't know before? My mama Iyanla loves to say that. What do you know now that you didn't know before? What have you learned? What have you felt? What stuck out to you the most? If you have suggestions around topics and things that you'd like to hear us talk about, share. If you want to come on and be on the show with us, again, this is Coach K and friends, and so if you and some of you I may tap for sure and ask you to come on to talk about different things, then put that in the comments, send me a message, let me know. And listen, you don't have to be a pro. Charlena's doing a magnificent job and didn't even know how, she doesn't even know where the go live button on Facebook is, but she's on here and she hit it naturally and you will feel at home. But listen, if you, I want you to listen to your heart. Okay. So if you feel like, oh, I have a perspective, and this isn't about gaining any fame here because this is a
Right.
hobby for us. I
Yeah.
haven't even started promoting this yet. If it's meant to be out there, God will do what he's going to do. But if you have a feeling in your heart, I really encourage you to step past your pride or worrying about what you look like or what people will think. If you're ready in that sense to come on with us, and you don't have to stay on here the entire time. We may rotate people in and out, like 10 minutes where we talk to you, 10 minutes with somebody else, but we would love that. And if you feel led to do that, then I encourage you to reach out to me and let me know.
Yes, you're welcome. Come join us.
Come join us, but definitely put in the comments something that you didn't know before, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Let us know how this is supporting you in your own journey. You might not even be married and you might have heard something that helped you, so feel free to share that.
Mhm.
Anything else, Charlena, before I guide us out with
No,
breath
I
work, because I
think
got to
that
check out of this hotel.
you did great, a great wrap up, and we just look forward to seeing everybody next week. And just have a wonderful, prosperous, and safe, and mentally and physically healthy week.
I don't know why I can't get my
And
t-shirt right. That was the wrong way. Okay. I've been doing this all morning. All right. Okay, so now we're going to do 3 breaths. Okay, and I will count you, so I won't be fully breathing my own. I'm not a professional at this at all. The reason why we're doing these breaths is to ground ourselves in what we've heard today, and it's also going to support us in releasing any and all negativity around the topic in your life. You never know how it will affect you, but I will tell you that just breathing intentionally has changed my life, my spirit, the energy I go out into the world. Everything is different, but it also calms your body down. If you're experiencing a moment of anxiety, you can bring your body out of flight or fight and down into a calm place just through breath work. So if nothing else, you'll learn this tool and then you can use it on your own. You ever seen somebody in an emergency, they're panicking or somebody passes out, and what's the first thing they say? They give them some water and they say what? Take a breath, because that's how powerful it can be. So as you do that, as much as you can, make sure you're sitting like right on your pelvic bone. You may have to like arch yourself a little bit. This helps you to keep your spine erect, and it also just lets your breath go clean, through up and down. And so you can close your eyes to help you concentrate. I'm not going to ask you to try to control your thoughts or anything like that. We're just going to focus on inhaling through the nose for 4. I'll count to 4. Then you will hold for a count of 4. And then you will slowly release for a count of 4 through pursed lips, like whistling lips. The reason why you're doing that is to allow the breath to go out slowly. There are times where you could, that feels good too when you're really stressed. You can do a fast exhale. But what we're going to do is 3 box breaths. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, inhale through the nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale through the mouth for 4. All right, so let's get comfortable and allow your eyelids to close. Just take a minute to relax. We do so much rushing, but I promise you, you can take time right here to just relax. Take a minute to kind of get yourself grounded and centered and stop thinking about everything else that's on your to do list for the day. This is your moment, this is your time. Your body needs this. You need time to let all the information settle. Who knows what this brought up for you based on where you are in your life right now. And so we want to take time to acknowledge that. Make sure your feet are flat on the floor and just catch your breath and kind of be aware of your breath. You're also giving thanks for the fact that you have breath in your body. Relax your belly, and we're going to inhale through the nose. And one, two, three, four. Hold the breath. Two, three, four. And exhale through whistling lips. Two, three, four. And relax. All right, as you do this next breath, focus on relaxing as much of your body as you can. Any tightness in your belly, relax your tongue while you're breathing. If your forehead is tight, relax, relax, relax your whole body. And inhale through the nose. One, two, three, four. Hold the breath. Two, three, four, and release. Two, three, four, and relax again. Keep those eyelids closed. There's nothing for you to do. No one needs anything from you in this moment. This is your moment for you. As we do this last breath, I want you to inhale whatever good stuff you want for this week, whatever good intentions or desires you're setting for yourself, whatever good things you're hoping to happen. I want you to think on those things through the count of four and while we're holding. And then when we exhale, you're going to let go of every toxic thing, everything unpreferred experience that you've had. You're going to let that go with your exhale. And then we will wait quietly and you will open your eyelids when you're ready to be free from that. All right. Catch your breath, find your breath. And we're inhaling through the nose. One, two, three, four. Hold the breath. Two, three, four. And exhale everything toxic. Two, three, four. And relax. Just letting go of everything that we don't prefer so we can make room for every good thing that is for us. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back to us. You look wonderful, Charlena. Can you guys believe she is 60? I have to say her age, 62. Oh.
Girl, I'm going to be eligible for Medicare in 10 days.
In 10 days. Wow, in 10 days. Oh my goodness. Wow.
No. I take that Social Security.
Oh, Social
I won't
Security.
be eligible for Medicare
Okay.
until 65.
That is hilarious.
Social
And she's
Security.
excited. She's so happy that she's finally got a few grays, that she finally doesn't look 25.
Grays, girl.
Yeah, I would have colored those bad boys right on out, but
I'm
you
not,
keep
I'm
it.
keeping.
I got a little strip right here. A girlfriend of mine just showed me this spray on. She was like, just get this L'Oreal spray for $10.99. Spray those grays away. So
My husband doesn't want me looking significantly younger than him.
I know. He doesn't want to look like a
like,
cradle robber over there.
Keep those grays, babe.
Oh boy. All right. Well, listen.
I love you. Thank you,
yes,
everyone, for
I love
joining.
you so much. Yes. Thank you all for joining. And we will see you next Sunday. So make sure to tell a friend. I'm going to do better at promoting the show and putting some notes out there in advance that we're coming on and that sort of thing. But we're doing our best to be consistent on this end, so you know where to find us every week. And you can come to look forward to making this part of your weekend routine. So send in those topic suggestions and anything else you have in mind. Feel free to comment or send me a message. All right.
And you can join us while you're cooking your Sunday dinner, while your
brunch or whatever.
Partner is watching football. You can watch us.
Yep. And you can catch the replay. Shout out to the replay gang. Put in the comments if you're watching on replay, comment and let us know. You can comment just like you're watching live. We would love to see it. One day we're gonna get some music on here, Charlene. I don't know how to do all that yet. We're gonna get some music. We're gonna have an intro, outro. We're gonna be professional.
That's on you.
I know you can't help with that at all.
I can play some in the background though.
It's probably illegal. Look, then they'll shut the show down if we don't have the rights to that music. So we'll figure it out. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.